Ya yina ya mama ya da 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 ya da ya da da ya da da ya mama mama ya mama ya da da ya do I la ra ya na 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 ra ra Good evening, everyone. Tonight, we're going to be discussing the role of a Rebbe. Even the topic itself is completely beyond the scope of human understanding. The role of a Rebbe. What do we know to speak about that topic tonight? But as we're coming to Gimel Tammuz, it's important for us to at least try to scratch the surface and understand that we don't understand. Just when it comes to the mind, the brain, compared to the rest of the body, a person doesn't understand, and even the greatest doctors don't understand how it's possible that this material, which is called the brain, with all its different folds and so on and so forth, is actually a receptacle, a recipient for human consciousness and directs the rest of the body. There's a great rabbi by the name of the Khatam Sofer, which was asked a question concerning, is it possible, is it permitted according to Jewish law to ask a bracha, to ask a blessing from a Rebbe, from a tzaddik? Isn't that going out of the proper standard? You're supposed to pray to God. You're not supposed to ask another human for a blessing. To this, the Khatam Sofer, if I recall, answered two answers. One is that, first of all, Kol Yisrael Arevim Ze Bazeh, we all form one body. And a Rebbe, which the word Rabbi in Hebrew, Resh, Bet, Yud, spells out the words Rosh Bnei Israel, the head of the Jewish people. And if indeed the foot feels its pain, the head of the one that has that foot is able to feel the pain even more so. And therefore he said that there's no person which is more proper to ask a bracha than a Rebbe, because he is the head, and therefore through the fact that he knows himself, he knows everybody, every single one of us. We say in our prayer, Hamelech hameromam berachamelech berachamecha rabim rachem alinu. God, you are a king, and because you are a king, we ask you with your mercy, have mercy upon us. The previous Lubavitcher Rebbe has a whole discussion to explain what is this mercy of the king. I'm going to describe to you a little an approach of what it means, the mercy of the king. Many years ago, when the Iron Curtain came down and Jews came out of Russia, arrived in Israel and America, there was a scene, there was a certain thing that we saw with our eyes that cannot leave me. It was funny and very sad at the same time. We saw Jews that unfortunately behind the Iron Curtain, when they needed toilet paper, basic needs, they had to wait for hours, and sometimes they still didn't get what they needed because there wasn't enough. And they had to come by again the next day, come back. And suddenly these Jews are free, they come to America, and we would see something like a Russian Jew coming with a cart filled with tens and tens of of toilet paper rolls, and he felt, boy, I'm the richest man in the world. I just came out, now I won't ever have to wait in line anymore. And we looked at them and we were sad for them that this was their concept of wealth. So there's a situation where a person can experiment wealth and feel that he is wealthy, feel that he has nothing that's missing in his life, and actually feel not only he has nothing missing, but he has everything he needs. And really somebody which is essentially wealthy and is not lacking anything, understand that that person is really lacking and missing something in his life. And therefore, we can understand that when we say that Mizmor, that song in the prayer of the Tehillim chapter 90, Tefillah le Moshe, prayer for Moshe. Moshe was a wealthy man, so what does a wealthy man pray for? If Moshe is attached to the Jewish people and therefore he prays for them because they're lacking, therefore he is lacking, so he's not really wealthy. Moshe is of a wealth which is an essential wealth, where he's not dependent on anyone for his wealth. And therefore, he understands when he looks at a Jew, what that Jew is missing in his life. And that's what a Rebbe is. The role of the Rebbe is to be that merciful king, merciful teacher, merciful father, that understands, grasps to the greatest depth what we are missing and shows us the direction. Actually, it's interesting because Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai said on himself, Ana simana be'alma, I'm nothing more than a sign for the world. What does that mean? Just like you have a sign saying New York, Brooklyn, Manhattan, I'm a sign. You want to get closer to God? I'm that sign that you just have to look at. And otzem bitulo, the fact that he is completely erased and has no existence for himself. And his only existence, as the Rebbe said himself, is kotso shel yud shel Shulchan Aruch, is that even the little crown which is on top of the yud, the small dot of the code of Jewish law, which represents God's will, that should be followed to the T, without missing a millimeter, a detail of what God wants from us. And this is what the Rebbe is. You have, over the generations, many types of tzaddikim. You have mekubalim, people that are very well versed in Kabbalah and could do the work for you, using combinations of names and blessing you and so on and so forth. And then you have a Rebbe. The Rebbe is the true educator, the true teacher, as we say in the Pirkei Avot. They said three things, the rabbis of the Great Assembly in the first Mishnah of the ethics of our fathers. At the end it says, and one of them is, you will make many students stand. The Rebbe explains to us that the real teacher, the real spiritual guide is not the one that does the work for the student, but it's not even the one that teaches. It's the one that makes the student stand on his own 2 feet. You make many students stand. This is what Lord Rabbi Jonathan Sachs said about the Rebbe, that the Rebbe didn't create followers, but the Rebbe created leaders. Because on one hand, you can have your own personality, but at the same time, you have a mission to fulfill. And the Rebbe is the one that's going to give you that clarity and that guidance. So the role of a Rebbe, I think, is to teach us selflessness. To teach us that we have a purpose, and that purpose is at a much higher dimension, much higher level than we could ever imagine. And that the Rebbe can see. But the Rebbe is never going to do the work for you. You make that first step, the Rebbe will push you to the next step. But if you don't make that step, if you're not ready to go out of your comfort zone, it's a problem. Let me share with you a story I heard from a good friend, Alav Shalom, of blessed memory, Rab Gimpel Oremland. This Rab Gimpel Oremland was a man that was of good means, great means. I heard it directly from him. In 1993, I heard this story, 57, 53. When I first came to Miami, was sent by the Rebbe. And he told us like this. He said that one Simchat Torah, he came to do the akafot, celebrate Simchat Torah with the Rebbe. And they were bidding to see who's going to dance with the Sefer Torah. So Rabbi Beryl Wise from Los Angeles outbid him. Okay, the next time there was a bid, he decided to outbid him, so he said 1,000. Now we're talking about the 60s, the 70s, $1,000 was a lot of money. Still is. So, but not as much as then. And what happened is that when Rab Gimpel Oremland Alav Shalom said $1,000, the Rebbe looked at him and said 5,000. Rabbi Ben Sion Shem Tov was next to Rab Gimpel, and it's one thing to have a cash available. It's another thing to have a lot of money, but it's completely invested in buildings and properties, and you can't move till you sell your properties. So Rabbi Ben Sion Shem Tov was, pushing him like this and say, the Rebbe said 5, he'd give 5. Now, the Rebbe didn't need that money, and we'll understand that later. So he said, okay, but the Rebbe said, 1 second, it has to be besimcha. If you're going to give this money, you have to do it with joy. The Rebbe was hinting to the fact that a person that forces somebody to give money, it's like stealing from him if he forces a person to give money that he doesn't want to give. And the Rebbe would never do that. So if you're going to do it with joy, and it has to be your decision. So Rab Gimpel said, okay, besimcha, I'm going to do it with joy. He got the akafa, and the Rebbe then blessed him and said, Bezrat Hashem, with the help of God, next year, kefel kiflaim, next year you have the double of the double. So you can imagine he was delighted. A year passed, and I remember him telling us the story. And it was approaching Rosh Hashanah, and his wife says, "Nu," which means what's happening? I don't see nothing moving in sustenance. That suddenly you're going to make big money. And at that moment, they got an offer. I think they owned a old age home, which was not far from the Mount Sinai Hospital here in Miami. And they got an offer for $500,000, tremendous sum of money then. And indeed, he sold it. He asked the bracha from the Rebbe, he sold it, he came, and this time for the akafot of Simchat Torah, Beryl Wise said an amount of money, and he was ready to give any amount of money because he made so much money with the Rebbe's bracha, the Rebbe's blessing. So he said, Al da'at harabi, which means whatever the Rebbe says, I will do. Nobody can argue with such a bid. The Rebbe could ask him for $100,000, and he would give it. So this happened. He got the akafa and so on and so forth. And then after the holiday, came into the Rebbe's office ready to write a big check, double of double. It would be $20,000. And he asked the Rebbe, so how much should I write on the check? And the Rebbe told him $126. Rabbi Gimple was in a complete shock. He said, I don't understand, Rebbe. Last year, that $1,000 I promised I didn't have, you asked me for five. This year that I have, you're asking me for $126. And the Rebbe said to him something I'll never forget. The Rebbe said, when you didn't have the money, that was called giving. Now that you have the money, what difference does it make for you? 20,000 or 50,000 or 5,000? It makes no difference. Basically, what the Rebbe did for him was to put him in a situation where I'm going to take you out of your comfort zone in order to show you that you have a much greater potential to grow, even financially. But I'm going to push you in that direction. But I'm only going to push you if you're letting me push you and you're going to push yourself. And this is the beauty of the Rebbe. The role of the Rebbe is, as the Rebbe explained many times, is that we should be a mehalech. We should be somebody that is a walker, somebody that is growing. Angels do not grow. Angels stay put, however they've been created, that's the status they're going to have for the rest of their existence. But we Jews are asked to consistently grow. Actually, one day somebody came to the Rebbe and said, Rebbe, I'm clean shaven and I am not so observant, and I don't see ever myself becoming your chassid, wearing a beard, wearing a hat, wearing a long coat. And the Rebbe said to him something brilliant, as everything the Rebbe said. I'm sorry, I shouldn't even be saying brilliant or not brilliant. Everything the Rebbe says is brilliance, is illuminating. It illuminates our path in the service of God. The Rebbe said to him, any Jew that goes to sleep at night and tells himself that tomorrow will be better than today is my chassid, is my follower. And the Rebbe went on and further to say that every person has to know his potential to the T in all details. Why? In order to be able to know how much to ask from oneself. This is a Rebbe. The role of the Rebbe is that he is always in a situation of demanding. The Rebbe demands. And even today, after Gimel Tammuz, the Rebbe continues to demand. We are in situations, in various situations, and we have difficulties, challenges. This can only be solution and can only be helped once we expand and grow the vessel, grow the keli. Rabbi Adin Even Israel Steinsaltz, she should live long and be well, have a refuah shlema, says a story that one day he was working on 7 projects. One of them is monumental. It's the elucidation of the whole Talmud, the first one to do such a monumental work, which that in itself is worthy of, it's a lifetime accomplishment. But besides that, he was working on another 6 projects, and he didn't know which one of the projects he should cut because it was too much for him to handle. He went to see the Rebbe thinking that he could ask the Rebbe which one to cut. And the Rebbe said, add more. As a follower of the Rebbe, and we've all been taught that as followers of the Rebbe, we have to be those who do things not because we understand them, but understanding will come later. We have to do them because this is our merit, our privilege, that we have been given the opportunity to connect ourselves to Hashem and to connect ourselves to such a completely selfless leader. So he didn't ask himself any questions. He said, I thought about it and I thought about it again. What is the Rebbe telling me? I asked the Rebbe, I want to cut my projects and have less projects. And what does the Rebbe tell me? I need to add projects. And then he said the following. He said, you have a bottle and you put a certain pressure on the bottle. You try to go to the maximum, how much this bottle can contain. You're going to put a lot of pressure and you're going to be able to fit a certain amount in the bottle. You can't fit any more. But if you're able to take the bottle and bring it back to its first state before it became a bottle and make out of it a bigger vessel, then that bigger vessel can contain more. The vessel, the way it is now, stiff and stuck in its position, in its comfort zone, that will never be able to get more. But once you reduce it and bring it back to its state of non-bottle, first primary matter, then you could transform it. And this is what Chassidut is all about, because the role of a Rebbe is to teach us how to go out of our comfort zone, but how? By teaching us Chassidut. You see, there are 5 levels in the Torah, just like there are 5 levels in the soul. Each one of these levels is understood at its specific level, the simple level of the explanation of the Torah, the allusions of the Torah, the Talmudic discussions of the Torah, the Kabbalistic understanding of the Torah. But then there's the quintessence of the Torah, and that's Chassidut, which is a taste of the Torah of Mashiach. And that only a Rebbe can do, can teach and give over. And that speaks directly to the quintessence of the Jew. That's why so many Jews are able to come back through the teachings of Chassidut. One day, a Litvischer Rabbi, none of the Hasidic group, came to see the Rebbe in private audience and said to the Rebbe, I don't understand you guys, you Chabad. You take a person from the street, he has a, what they call in Israel, a kuku, which is a ponytail and an earring, and you take him from the street, and instead of teaching him about Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Talmud, Jewish law, basics, right away you open a Tanya and you start teaching him Hasidic philosophy. What's the matter with you? The Rebbe smiled, didn't address the question, and just said, but you see, it works. In the Torah, there are the dimensions which have to do with what we call kochot hagiluim, which the revealed aspect of the person. And then we have the quintessential connection a Jew has with Hashem. Like we say in Hayom Yom, as a Yid nicht will und nicht erkennt sein Abgerissen von Elokus. A Jew does not want and cannot naturally disconnect himself from his source of life. In the Torah, you have the quintessence of Torah, and that's Chassidut. And who is the master of Chassidut? The Rebbe. So when you teach a Jew, even if he has no knowledge in Torah, you teach him Chassidut, you right away speak to that level which has been hidden, concealed, buried in the different traumas and experiences of life, and is now revealed. Once you reveal that, you reveal the faith which is in the Jew. Once you reveal the faith in the Jew, then automatically he's going to keep kosher, keep Shabbat, start learning about Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, the Talmud, the laws, and everything else. But if you teach him all the laws, but he has no belief, you've done nothing. But when you teach a man belief, then at that moment you're really teaching him how to connect to his essence. And that's what the purpose of a Rebbe is. Push us and push us more for our own good, with our own effort, in order that we should have our own benefit. And we should really rejoice. Adam rotze bekav shelo mitisha kabin shel chavero. A person rather have one portion which is his own than 9 portions which belong to somebody else. And therefore, there's a whole service, there's a whole way to be able to receive as we're coming to Gimel Tammuz, and and all the actions and all the blessings and all the tremendous effect and revelation of godliness which was brought to the world by the Rebbe and continues to be brought to the world every second through his shluchim, his emissaries. All of this is going to be revealed to us this Tuesday night and Wednesday, the whole day, on the day of Gimel Tammuz. So we have a choice. We could go to Gimel Tammuz and actually just go by, or we could become a vessel. And how do we become a vessel? How do you prepare the ground for, before you put the seeds, before the rain falls, you have to plow. The seed has to rot. We have to be able to make an introspection and ask ourselves, Besur mera ve'asetov, in getting away from bad and adding in good, what can I do in order to become that recipient of the blessings? What do I do to connect myself? At a certain time, there was somebody that was staying supposedly in one of the yeshivas of Chabad in France, and for whatever reason, he had a television. They found out. They put the television they took it out of the room and they put it in the storage. And the Rebbe wrote right away, he says, I disagree completely that a television should be in my institution. The Rebbe actually writes that in the olden days, when the people would walk by a church, they would not walk on the same sidewalk. They would walk across the street. And today, by bringing a television at home, you bring the church and the sidewalk inside the house. When Bob Dylan came to see the Rebbe, they told the Rebbe that this great personality is going to come and everything is going to be part of the Farbrengen. And he was there at the Farbrengen. And then after the Farbrengen, the Rebbe asked, you told me somebody is coming, I didn't see him. But Rebbe, he was there. He said, no, I didn't see him. The Chassidim understood already at that time. I think he was involved in things which he should not be involved. So they brought him to the mikveh, and they made him come a little closer to Hashem, abandon a little the different things that he had attached himself to. And when he came back, then the Rebbe noticed him and acknowledged him. There's a similar story with the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe where he asked his secretary, Rabbi Fagin, to please give him a list of the people that came in private audience. And when the Frierdiker Rebbe saw the list, he said, I understand, this person never came to see me, and that person never came to see me, and this person either. And Rabbi Fagin said, I don't understand what you're saying. I personally opened the door for them, and I brought them in your office. Then Rabbi Fagin understood. It's one thing to go see the Rebbe, it's another thing to be seen by the Rebbe. What sacrifice did I do? What did I give up in order to be seen? And that brings me to what I said before about the television, which today everybody carries a little television in their hand, right? Let's not fool ourselves with the smart, not so smart phone, as it says concerning the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination that is foolish and old. So we have a very foolish but very smart Yetzer Hara in our hands. And when we want the Rebbe's blessings, I remember I had a friend in yeshiva that told me, he was from Singapore, and he wrote to the Rebbe one letter, another letter, and he didn't get any answer. So he spoke to Rabbi Groner. Rabbi Groner says, you have to purify yourself before you write a letter to the Rebbe. So he decided he's going to type it. Like this, he doesn't touch it with his hands, and he still didn't get an answer. Then he understood, purify means I need to go to the mikveh. He went to the mikveh. He gave up on certain things that he has, certain pleasures of the world. that weren't so kosher, and he got an answer from the Rebbe. If we want the Rebbe's blessings to penetrate our homes, if we want to have some type of benefit, we have to give up something. We can't just expect that the blessings are going to flow, but we're going to not go out of our comfort zone. Whether it's putting our phones aside and taking that few minutes to say that Hasidic story, a story for our kids at the table. Whether it's saying Shema to the child before it goes to sleep, or with a story, or waking up and doing that Netilat Yadayim, everybody at his level. For another, it's just getting rid of the internet at home. But that's for the negative, getting rid of the negative. Certain, I'm not going to eat non-kosher anymore. Or I'm going to make a step towards that. That effort, that's already one first effort. Then in Asitov, in a practical connecting, that's through the study of Torah. The study of Torah, the doing of mitzvot, the influencing others. You have no idea how that can have a tremendous impact on you, on your family. When you do that, you connect yourself to the Rebbe in a tremendous, tremendous way, and you make yourself a real vessel for the Rebbe's blessings. And that's what it means to be present, to be existent. I exist because I'm ready to sacrifice myself. Once I become, like the Rebbe, selfless, a very painful word to hear, less of yourself. Just like the Rebbe said when he spoke to these handicapped soldiers that came from Israel, and he said, you're not called handicapped. You're not missing something. You are mitsuyanim. You will stand out by your excellence. The leg and the arm that you're missing is not missing. It's the leg and the arm that you gave for the Jewish people. So when we see it missing, we don't see something missing. We see the gift, the self-sacrifice you did for another. The Rebbe's whole existence from day to night is self-sacrifice for another Jew. And that's what we need to learn. That's the role of a Rebbe, to teach us self-sacrifice. So we have another 24 hours to prepare ourselves. And the Rebbe promised us that our generation would see the Geulah, see the final redemption with Mashiach. Let us conclude tonight and ask ourselves, if Mashiach would reveal himself today, where would I be? Where would I like to be? What would I like to be doing? And what is the self-sacrifice which I would be proud to say, this is what I did in order to be part of it all at the highest possible level. So Bezrat Hashem, let's not just go to the Rebbe, this Gimel Tammuz. Let's be present. Let's live it up at the highest possible level. And let us, Bezrat Hashem, see that the prophecy of our Rebbe, that this generation would see Mashiach, deliver us, liberate us, more than, like we never needed Mashiach so badly as today. Bezrat Hashem, let us see it with our own eyes, and let's go from strength to strength, and every one of us should leave tonight with one extra mitzvah, one little self-sacrifice in the positive, in the active, and in the passive that we should take upon ourselves. And with this, hopefully this will tip up the balance and bring the Geulah Shlema. Thank you so much, and let us hope to be reunited with our Rebbe once again, and to hear words of inspiration, words of Torah, words of Geulah Shlema, final redemption. Amen.